Stories are the most powerful thing on earth. They are literally life and death. Wars are waged based on the story of who is the hero and who is the villain. You are the result of a story your parents told each other, the one-night stand, the soulmate, and friends who became so much more. Life and death. So wouldn't you like to understand them better, these stories? How Story Works, an elegant guide to the craft of storytelling by Lani Diane Rich, demystifies stories and helps you understand why you love what you love, why you hate what you hate, and why prologues are almost always a bad idea. How Story Works by Lani Diane Rich. Available on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback form. Get your copy today.
Welcome to Still Pretty, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast from Chipperish Media. I'm story expert with bleeding tragic taste in men, Lani Diane Rich.
And I'm film scholar Noelle LaCroix, and I've been thinking about that last spell we did all day. And we're here today to talk about Goodbye, Iowa, the 14th episode of Season 4.
Goodbye, Iowa aired on February 15th, 2000, and was written by Marty Noxon with Doug Petrie as story editor. This episode was directed by David Solomon.
None of which makes any sense because this episode is kind of clunky and does not reflect the quality and beauty and grace that we expect of Marty Noxon, Doug Petrie, and David Solomon. I want to know what the hell happened.
Everybody has an off day from time to... I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? This is the kind of stuff we talk about on this podcast because we are fully spoiled. If you haven't seen it and you're spoiler sensitive, maybe, I don't know, watch the entire thing over a long weekend with popcorn and I don't know. You do you. But just know that we could talk about anything at any time. We probably won't, but, you know, brace yourselves.
Every now and again
anyway.
we do, though. Every now and again
we go off and we pull in Angel and then we spoil something from,
the
we'll
comic
spoil
books
a movie.
Or whatever.
Comic
and then The Sixth Sense. Like, we literally could spoil anything at any time.
Oh my God, Bruce Willis was dead at the end of Sixth Sense.
The whole time.
I need a moment.
Okay.
I feel an attack of dumb blonde coming on. So let's go on patrol. In Goodbye, Iowa, Buffy reports into the Scoobies about Professor Walsh setting her up. While they try to figure out what Walsh was up to, her Frankenpet Adam steps out into the sunlight, ready to start some shit up. Buffy decides they need to weapon up and hide until they know what's going on. Riley busts into Giles' place without knocking, and then demands to know what's going on. Giles suggests that the initiative may have some darker purposes, and Riley wigs out.
That's not what happens there.
Riley.
I would know.
Look, no one is sure of anything, okay? We're just trying to sort it out.
I can't be here. I'll sort it out on my own.
Riley.
No. I'm sorry.
Out in the woods, Frank and Adam comes upon a little kid, and sure, that's absolutely going to end well. Dr. Who's-Its, I'm sure he has a name, it's just that nobody cares, comes into room 314 and finds Walsh skewered and Adam gone. So, not a banner day for Who's-Its. In Xander's basement, Giles tries to sleep on a beach ball while everyone else watches cartoons in bed. Buffy worries about Riley, Anya defends her possessions, a.k.a. Xander, and then said possession comes downstairs and has them switch on the news. A little boy's body was found skewered and mutilated. Buffy figures Walsh sent the Polgara demon after her.
I'm going to the crime scene to see what I can find out. You guys research the Polgara demon. I want to know where it is. When I find it, I'm going to make him pay for taking that kid's life. I'll make him die in ways he can't even imagine. That probably would have sounded more commanding if I wasn't wearing my yummy sushi pajamas.
Riley goes back to his room and tells Forrest that Walsh tried to kill Buffy. And Forrest says that that's totes okay because Buffy's a pain in the ass.
Why does it bug you so much that I'm hanging with her? Is it because she's a better soldier than you?
No, Riley, that's not why. Forrest suggests that maybe Buffy is the bad guy here. But they're interrupted when Graham comes in with the news that Walsh is dead. Forrest accuses Buffy of killing Walsh and they fight. Hey guys, make love, not war. Dr. Huzitz tells them that the team is coming in to investigate, and Riley decides it's time to take action.
Engelman can talk all he wants, but I'm still in charge till the brass gets here and tells me otherwise. I say we've got a demon to hunt. Now suit up for armed patrol, and by that I mean loaded guns, men. Target practice is over. All for blood.
Buffy goes to the scene of the kid's murder and bumps into Riley there. She tries to make peace, and he tells her that Walsh is dead and asks if she's happy now. She vows to go after the Polgara demon and kill it. Willow goes to Tara's room and says she doesn't come over just for spells. That she really likes talking to Tara and hanging out. But she wants to have sex. Do a spell. To find demonic energy. At Willie's, Buffy's just about to get some information out of Willie when Riley busts in, shaking and sweating and acting all, well, Riley. A patron tries to get out while the getting's good, but Riley pulls a gun on her.
Hey, we got new rules here. No killing.
Right. Except the rules don't seem to apply much these days, do they? Like if I shot you right now, I don't know if I'd have a corpse on my hands or one pissed off vampire.
Riley.
Who do you believe? First it sounds like lies, then it sounds like truth.
Buffy gets Riley to put the gun down, then brings him back to Xander's and gets him to lie down. At Tara's, Willow and Tara try the spell to find demonic energy, but Tara sneakily sabotages the spell. We'll revisit that in about a year. Buffy takes Xander with her to break into the initiative. She dresses in a lab coat and he wears commando gear. When some commandos come by, he tries to make out with Buffy to throw them off the scent.
This is the initiative, Xander. Military guys and scientists do not make out with each other.
Well, maybe that's what's wrong with the world. Ever think about that?
At Giles's, Willow, Anya, and Giles wonder whether the thing rampaging through Sunnydale is actually a Polgara demon. The M.O. is not consistent. Riley wakes up, finds out that Buffy went to the initiative to find out what's making Riley sick, and decides he needs to go after Buffy. Willow tries to stop him, and he pushes her to the floor and runs. Meanwhile, at the initiative, Buffy and Xander overhear Dr. Huzitz taking an exposition dump in the middle of the hallway.
I don't want to think about the damage our guys could do under the stress of withdrawal, especially since they won't understand what's happening to them. These guys don't know they've been getting meds through their food, so we better get them in here stat.
Buffy follows Dr. Huzitz into his secret lab and just gets warmed up threatening him when a woozy and sweaty Riley shows up. Buffy continues to threaten Huzitz until he tells her about 314, calling it the Project. Riley gets his big burly arms involved, pulling Buffy aside and accusing her of killing Walsh and trying to tarnish her memory. As they fight, Frank and Adam drops a dead body at their feet and proceeds to take an exposition dump as well.
I'm a kinematically redundant biomechanical demonoid, designed by Maggie Walsh. She called me Adam, and I called her mother.
He calls Riley a brother because they were both made by Maggie Walsh or something. Riley tries to kill Frank and Adam, and then there's a big fight, and Frank and Adam skewers Dr. Huzitz. There's only room enough for one exposition dumper in this town. As commandos bust into the room, Frank and Adam escapes, and they run after him. Riley collapses, and the commandos take him away, sending Buffy and Xander away. At the university, Buffy and Willow talk. Buffy's worried about Riley. She doesn't know where he is, and everything he's ever believed in has been taken away. He has nothing to hold on to. Cross dissolved to the military hospital while Riley holds on to the bandana Buffy wrapped around his injured hand, so, okay. All right, so Noelle, here we are in Goodbye, Iowa. Man, this is not a great episode.
It's really not. It's really not. I really, really, really want to give it the benefit of the doubt. Like, I have these moments in my notes where I'm like, oh, this could be like deeply symbolic, but then it's not. Sure. It's just like, or maybe it is, but it is so clunky within the context of this story where we, the audience, know what's going on, but the characters have no idea. So we just kind of have to,
dramatic irony. Mm-hmm.
We just have to sit there, and it's like, really?
Yeah.
But really, we have to watch you talk about what this could possibly be when we've known for at least a couple episodes what's going on. I don't like it. I don't care for it.
We've had so much exposition dumping, though. There's Maggie, who's just talking to herself all the time because, I mean, in soap opera blocking, too, where, like, she's facing the camera and then the other parts, like, the person she's talking to is actually behind her. And, like, this whole, it's just... it's been gradually, like, we've been getting little pieces of bad all together, but this is like a big bad sandwich in the middle of a bad pita wrap with bad lettuce. And it's a bad metaphor, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all of it. Everything in this is bad, with a couple of like, you know, a couple of exceptions, a couple of moments where things are okay. I'm a fan of the yummy sushi pajamas, but generally in this episode, it's just like, I don't know. Like, I've watched this episode a number of times. I don't think I've ever liked it, but this time I was like, oh God, really? Like, can we just, I don't care about Riley and his night sweats. Like, I just don't care. So anyway, one of the things that I love about working with you, Noelle, is that you do have this ability to kind of like see these deeper resonant levels of meaning. And I would love for you to open the episode giving us like whatever you were able to scrape out of this show.
something about the choice of the word scrape. I'm picturing like dentist tools, right? I'm just like, oh, come on. Like, all right, there are things in this episode that I think have potential question mark to be like an interesting bit of symbolism or commentary on the world of the show or something. And I don't know. I'm just going to get right into it. So Adam's interaction with the boy in the woods, which is actually, I think is actually fine in terms of being kind of a, you know, like a creepy, oh shit, this is where, like, we all know where this is going kind of moment. That scene with Adam and the boy is immediately followed by Dr. Who's-Its, or Dr. Creepy, as I've been calling him.
And just for everybody out there yelling, yeah, we know his name is Dr. Engelman. We just don't care. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just don't, whatever.
Yes.
He goes into the lab, he slips in a pool of Maggie's blood and ends up lying there with Maggie's blood literally on his hands.
I know, but the thing is that, like, when we look at her body, there's like this little trail of blood coming out from her that just stops. But then there's enough for him to slip in and then press his hands into it so perfectly that all of his palms and his fingers are perfectly covered in blood. I'm sorry, go ahead. It's a stupid criticism, but it's just like,
it doesn't work for you. It's fine. Like, it's a great idea for a visual, especially if we're trying to suggest that the initiative is its own downfall. Like, this is all, it really is all their fault. Yes. And then, of course, you know, Buffy's going to attempt to blame herself later, and Willow's like, no, girl, like, come on, seriously, like, stop it right now. I'm just going to nip that in the bud. But I mean, I kind of like the idea of, you know, the mad scientists killed by their own creation or whatever the fuck. But, you know, so we have this like little moment that doesn't work for you because you're like, oh, really? Like, you're Buffy watching the Roadrunner. You're like, that would never happen.
Exactly. And the thing is that, like, you know, for film and TV, and I've talked about this a few times, it's not supposed to be what it is. It's supposed to be how it feels, right? But there also has to be, like, you have to build up a certain amount of, like, believability energy. You know, like believability collateral in order to spend on something like that. You know, like, I like the idea that he has literal blood on his hands, and I think that that's great, except for he is like literally the person that matters least to any of this. He's not the one. Walsh was the one who like did this whole thing. He was her second in command. He was just doing what he was told, you know? So like, how much of this is actually Dr. Who's-Its fault? Like, you know, I mean, he was there for it. He didn't stop it. But also, like, you know, whatever. But he was just doing what he was told. Like, the person with blood on their hands should be the person who, like, has a conscience and suddenly realizes, what have I done? Like, the blood on the hands is the what have I done moment. But this is not a what have I done moment. This is a what the fuck did Adam do moment, you know? Yeah. Like, for him. So that's, I think, part of the reason, like I really like appreciate that symbolism, that visual, if it was in a context that made more sense or where I had more of an emotional connection. But this guy has just been Maggie's number 2, and I didn't even feel that emotionally connected to Maggie, you know, because she has no vulnerability until she was skewered through the heart. So, with the exception of her weird sexual mommy thing with Riley.
So weird.
I don't know if that's a vulnerability that I really feel like a lot of empathy for, because it's weird and creepy. So yeah, I don't know. Like it's a swing and a miss, I think, for me.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, you know, not only do you have to build up believability, you know, you have to have believability in the bank. You also have to have an established style.
Yeah.
Of, you know, like heavy-handedness with your symbolism, for example.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff that I pull in this episode is that kind of like, it's not what it is, it's how it feels kind of symbolism. But we haven't been doing a ton of that on the show. We've done some of it, but not like, okay, like this is my favorite and also probably the most glaring example of something that in a different show or in a movie or something could be really deeply symbolic, and here it just looks like a mistake.
Right.
We see Adam and the boy, that little scene where Adam says, you know, what are you? Or what am I?
Right.
You know, that whole thing. We're clearly in a little forest clearing sort of space. We can see a playground in the background.
Right.
This is clearly like this kid has gone out into the woods near civilization, but, you know, far enough away that he can get skewered and opened up and examined without anybody noticing right away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You know, that takes place in the woods. But then when Buffy goes to visit the crime scene, we're clearly in the desert. Like, clearly in the desert. And then, of course, she has that conversation with Riley about, you know, what all this is and what's going on. And I like the visual contrast that we've got Adam's search for identity in this like lush forest. You know, there's greenery and growth and sure, like he's new, he's green, he's trying to
literally
be of
born
nature.
yesterday.
He's also literally and he's also literally green.
Yes,
you know, like he's literally green because
literally green.
Why? Whatever. But then when Buffy and Riley are talking about all of this death and Riley doesn't know what's real anymore, we're in the desert where it's dry and nothing is like, there is no new growth. We're, you know, like it's a you know, Riley is feeling literally deserted because nothing he knows to be true is actually true at this point. But it just looks like a mistake. Like I'm reading all of this, you know, I'm reading all of this symbolism into it, but it doesn't track because that's not the kind of show this is. Like I could see someone making a film or a television show, and I'm sure someone has, where the scenery changes in accordance with the
emotional landscape.
Yeah. The literal landscape changes to reflect the emotional landscape. That would be rad, and I would love that.
Yeah, but well, you're going to get a ton of that in Restless, you know, but that's also dream imagery.
But that's dream imagery. And,
right.
I mean, don't get me started on dream imagery and how, like, half the time it works really, really beautifully, and half the time it's like, what? Like, you can't. The thing that makes dreams work, I mean, this is my philosophy now. The thing that makes dreams work in our own lives is that they are not necessarily something that we would create. I know there is lucid dreaming and people do, you know, all kinds of like guided meditation dreaming and all of these things. But generally speaking, I think for most people, It's like,
Yeah.
it was a tennis court, but it looked like a tennis court, but it was my parents' house.
Right, exactly.
And you're trying to explain the dream to someone, and you're like, okay, this made sense in the dream. We had to rescue,
exactly.
Whatever.
And dreams have that random shit in it too, like the guy with the cheese on his head and Restless, which I know somebody is going to be like, that's not random. That's that represents the dairy industry. I don't know. Whatever it represents, we'll get to that when we get to Restless. And as everybody knows, I hate dream sequences, and I get a load of shit for hating dream sequences. But the reason why I do is the same reason I don't like voiceover, I don't like flashbacks, I don't like fractured teases, because often when writers go to these kinds of devices, they do it because of insecurity as a writer. They do it because they want to, in the case of flashback or voiceover, they have some desperately needed exposition. This is so important that my viewer knows this, and they can't find a more elegant way to do it. With the fractured tease, they're insecure about whether it's interesting enough, so they steal a part of the more interesting part of the story at the climax and then put it in the beginning and then go 36 hours earlier. Like it's just cheap devices.
I hate that so much.
I know. I hate it too. There are times, though, I will say, I will defend the fractured teases in Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is my go-to example for a well-done fractured tease. And shout out Vince Gilligan for this shit, because until then I had none. But Breaking Bad does it not borrowing from the most interesting, the most exciting part, but rather from the most thematic part, the thing that speaks to what this episode means. And I absolutely fucking love it in Breaking Bad. So anybody looking for an example of it, well done. So all that said, I don't hate all dream sequences. They're not Muppets to me. Like, I hate all Muppets, right? Except Angel and Smile Time. I hate all Muppets, right? But I don't hate all of these devices. I think there's a time and a place for the devices. But generally, dream sequences are the ones that writers go to when they want to feel or seem profound without actually having to earn it. Because you put a bunch of random stuff in and you're like, oh no, that has deep symbolism. And if you don't understand, then clearly there's something wrong with you and your ability to deal with the abstract, and fuck off. Like, it's just that. You have to earn it. Like, you have to earn that shit. You have to really dig deep and find that resonant thread of meaning. And I will say, as much as I don't enjoy Restless because I have that response to dream sequences, I think there is stuff in Restless that does do that, that does actually earn all of that abstraction, all of that symbolism, right? And when we get there, I trust you to be my guide to get me through that space so that I can see it without being just incredibly irritated.
So no pressure.
Right,
no pressure.
exactly.
It's fine.
Oh, no.
It's fine.
Oh, no. You are beyond up to the task. I know you're going to change my mind about Restless.
I don't know. Restless peaks really early for me with Willow painting Sappho on Tara's back.
See, that's pretty cool. Yeah, no, we'll talk about, but this isn't the episode for Restless, but we really don't want to talk about Goodbye Iowa. So anyway, all that said, Noelle, bring us back to the desert.
I know this is our like Riley's moment of clarity through complete confusion episode. And I'm just like, speaking of stuff you have to earn, like Riley we haven't had that much with Riley so far. He's just kind of like big and cute and pretty, and his arms are nice, and like he's a soldier boy, and that's all great. But now we've got to turn the tables on him and like make him this deeply, troubled, kind of symbolic figure. The way he's like, I don't know what's real, and he's following Buffy, and he's paranoid, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's at odds with literally everybody. Like he is physical with everybody, with Forrest, and he pushes Willow out of the way, and he grabs Buffy, and he's just like, I'm like, wait a minute, it makes sense from a storytelling standpoint, but we haven't built up the emotional resonance with that. So when we do this thing with Riley, scratching his right hand, and the one, Buffy wrapping his right hand when he literally doesn't know what's right, when the sense of what's right is coming apart for him. Yeah. And this idea that the right side is good and the left side is evil, and many of my favorite people are left-handed. I don't believe in that that very antiquated idea at all.
Exactly. Southpaws, we
However,
see you and love you. It's fine.
it shows up in, it's one of those symbols that shows up in our fiction a lot.
Yeah.
His sense of what is right, of his ability to do the right thing, is breaking down. So that's the hand, that's the side of his body, the side of his identity that's injured.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, it would be this, like, I could see that last shot of him with the bandana being a powerful symbol if we had built up more of an arc for Riley.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, they're trying.
No, they're trying. They're trying, but we just keep missing with Riley. And, I'm not sure what it is that's... He's just, I think it comes down to, a well-constructed character is a combination of strengths, weaknesses, and vulnerabilities, right? And Riley is pretty much all strengths. Like, he's number one on the team. He's the one that Maggie Walsh loves the most. He's the favorite son. He's good looking. He's, successful and smart and all of these things. And then his weaknesses are, he's terrible with women. So there's that. But as far as vulnerability, as far as like seeing what it is that really makes him tick, we get none of that. And then all of a sudden we get all of it, along with his being in withdrawal, which is causing him to act erratically and constantly go to his power, right? His power is in his physicality and his bulk. He grabs everybody in this episode and throws them around and then pulls a gun, on some lady. Like, he is constantly grabbing for his power when we've seen him with all of these strengths, like he's just Mr. Perfect cleft chin guy, and very little vulnerability. And now his vulnerability actually doesn't seem to be an emotional vulnerability, but a physical vulnerability, right? He's behaving this way because he's in withdrawal from having been poisoned through his food, or drugged, I guess. But I mean, like, all of that, like, even this sense of vulnerability, this, I don't know what's right, I don't know what to believe in, his whole world crashing down around him, and it's still kind of outside of that, like, deeply personal space. I mean, when Spike came in as the big bad in season 2, we saw his love for Drusilla, and that vulnerability was right there. Drusilla was sick and he was heartbroken and trying to fix her and trying to help her. So even while he was evil, we had access to that vulnerability that made us love him. Vulnerability is absolutely the key to building a really strong, engaging character, and also knowing how to do vulnerability too, like that it's real vulnerability, but we don't seem to be interested in giving Riley any real vulnerability. Even how much he likes Buffy is just, he likes her, and then what? He immediately gets her. He has a few bad moments with cheese, but overall, like, he gets her because arms and because floppy hair or whatever, So with him, we don't get vulnerability at all, really, in the beginning. And then now we have all this vulnerability, but it's coming from withdrawal symptoms and being physically drugged. It still doesn't seem to get close enough to the bone. There was the moment last week when he thought that Buffy was dead, and we see, like, some real vulnerability. And that is honestly like the only moment so far where I felt emotionally connected to Riley. And in this episode, which is supposed to have him at his most vulnerable, it's drugged vulnerability. It's withdrawal vulnerability. It's not actual real vulnerability. I think we're going to get that a little bit later in the season, a little bit more. But yeah, so at this point you're like, I don't care. Take him away to a military hospital and he can just go and I won't miss him,
Yeah. Goodbye, Iowa.
Bye, Iowa.
And then Buffy can date Graham, and I can be very happy.
Oh, Graham! Can we have a moment in Graham? Can we just take a pause and have a moment in Graham? Because
can we talk about Graham's very good sweater? I know we talk about the significance of clothing.
Right.
The significance of that sweater, that like oatmeal knit sweater. I'm like, yes, Graham.
He is
that
sweet.
is a cozy sweater.
When he comes in to deliver the news that Maggie Walsh is dead. And like, he's so, okay. I think the actor's name is Bailey Chase, I want to say. And I may be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I know everybody's yelling at me right now. It's okay. I'll look it up later. It's fine. But he's so, like, there is just this innate sweetness in him. And while Forrest and Riley are always fighting and bickering, you can always see, I always look to Graham whenever Graham's face can be seen on screen while Forrest is being a little bitch, right? You know, he's so sweet and he's so patient and he's so cute. But like when he comes in and he delivers those lines about Walsh being dead, I'm like, oh God, you're the sweetest thing in the world. And I adore you, but you're really not acting right now. Like, this is not good. Like, I don't believe any of this. But he's so sweet though. And I just like my whole heart, like he warms my heart the second he comes on screen. Every single time there is something just delightful and sweet about him that I love.
I think it's that he's that friend who's just not going to engage in any of his friends. Like,
he's no drama.
Yeah, like your friends are having a conflict and they try to drag you in and you're just like, nope. Like, no, I'm not. No, you're being ridiculous.
Right.
I love you both. You're being ridiculous. I'm not going to have this
but
conversation
he's
with
like that.
either
He's
of you.
like, no judgment.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, no judgment. I'm not judging Riley. I'm not judging Forrest. I am not making a comment about how badly Forrest wants to be in bed with Riley. I'm not saying a word about any of it. I'm just going to sit here, know all, and smile. He's so sweet.
In front of the balls poster, which makes me laugh every time I see it. Balls. Just balls.
Yes. Could we possibly get more manly than that?
I love that poster. I love that a production designer
deliberately chose that. You know what this man cave needs? Balls. That's what it means. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
We are in a manly man dorm room now.
Right.
Because balls.
Because of balls. There you go.
Love it. Love it. Now your moment in symbolism. Well,
Yes.
moving from the boys to the girls, Willow and Tara, man, we're hitting that symbolism hard.
Hello,
we're hitting it hard.
spells. It's
Hello,
so
let's do
cute.
spells. Tilda, we're going to summon the goddess Thespia. Now, really, I love Tara saying, are we ready for that?
Yeah.
Like, are we ready to come out as active thespians?
Thespians?
Is this,
Yes.
Yeah, worshipers. We follow the teachings of Thespia and everything she represents. And this is what makes us thespians.
Yeah.
Right? This is a scene about thespianism, and I'm just, I can't. I'm sorry. They're so cute, and they're
God, I know.
I mean, cute and kind of clueless.
Yeah.
That's kind of
But it's so sweet though, and Tara is so sweet, and like Tara is so sweet that sometimes I'm like, oh, honey, I just want to wrap you in bubble wrap because the world is not going to be kind to you. Like, it's going to be really hard. She's so
How did she
open-hearted.
survive this long?
I don't know. Without getting bitter or jaded or anything. Like, I don't know. What is she, like 19?
Yeah. I mean,
at that point, you should be totally bitter and jaded, but she's just incredibly sweet. And also, like when Willow comes by and Willow's like, well, I hope you know I'm not just using you for sex. And she's just like, no, it's fine. Just come on in. It's just
use me for sex. It's fine.
You can use me for sex all you want. You know, it's so sweet. But like, I feel like I want to protect Tara because I'm like, oh, baby, you're going to get hurt. You know, even without spoilers for the show, just in this moment before I knew anything that was going to happen. I was like, oh, honey, you know.
She's just an exposed nerve. She
really is. But there's such bravery. Like, there is an incredible, I mean, we're talking about no vulnerability in Riley at all. Like, Tara has absolute vulnerability everywhere. And it's expressed so well by Amber Benson, you know, in her performance. But I just, like, Tara is She's the anti-Riley. I'm just realizing this now. She is the anti-Riley. She shows up and I'm like, I love you. And Riley shows up and I'm like, nice arms, dude. Go away. You know,
Go away.
Exactly. But all this stuff with Willow and Tara is so incredibly sweet. And of course, we have that moment with Tara, you know, throwing away, like sabotaging the demon finding spell, which is such a subtle moment. And we never talk about it again until season 5. We never know why that was or what happened or why she screwed up the spell at that point until season 5. I'm like, talk about a slow burn.
Right?
Crazy.
Yeah. That's such an interesting moment. And it's such an interesting moment for Tara, who we don't know a whole lot about at this point. I mean, we know she's an exposed nerve. We know that she is like endlessly, like she loves Willow unconditionally, apparently, because Willow can say, you know, no, I'm going to go hang out with my other friends and then show up. And Tara's like, oh, yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
And Tara's like, it's fine. It's okay. Just come on in. It's fine. You know? Yeah. But that takes an incredible amount of strength. Like, you know, you look at Tara and you think she's just raw vulnerability. She's just raw. She's fucking badass. Like, open and, you know, and just willing to take whatever Willow has to give her without expectation or without, you know, like fear or anything, especially considering, you know, the nature of the relationship. And this is Willow's first time with a woman and all of that stuff. Of course, we haven't yet acknowledged textually. I mean, a little textually, but not entirely textually.
Like, really?
You know what? Okay, I'm going to confess to my straight bullshit. I didn't know until Willow came out to Buffy. That's how bad my straight bullshit has always been. I acknowledge it. I know I have straight bullshit, right? I was much younger when I saw it the first time, and I was like, oh, they're just friends doing like magical spells. That's nice. She's got a witch friend. Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, now, of course, I look at it and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is happening, you know?
You're like, this is the fucking gayest shit that has ever like, gayed. It's so gay. I love it so much.
I'll admit to my straight bullshit. I had a lot of it. I just was blinded to a lot of the world and a lot of existence, you know, and understanding what was actually happening here versus what was textually, you know, put on the screen was not something that I'd picked up on at that time. I was much younger. In my defense. We're all stupid when we're younger. Yes.
We all do stupid shit when we're young. So why does Tara sabotage the demon finding spell? Is it because she's not?
Because she thinks she's demon. She thinks she's part demon. Remember in Family in season 5 when her family shows up?
I literally don't remember that.
That would be why. In season 5, Tara's family shows up and she has been told her whole life that she is part demon and that's why she has magical abilities and she basically belongs to an abusive cult family.
Okay, so that's why and that's part of where the vulnerability comes from with her then, because when you're, you know, emotionally abused, you're like, I'm just going to be wide open because I have to take care of everyone around me. How did I not remember that? How did I not remember that at
honestly, all? It's I mean, Family is a really great episode in season 5, but there's so much happening in season 5 that families can sometimes be easy to forget. And it's just one episode and boom, we have Amy Adams shows up to be Tara's cousin.
Okay, that's weird. I remembered that Amy whatever. Yeah. This is what I get for a delayed rewatch.
That's all right. That's all right, baby. I'll remember the details and you pick out the symbolic stuff and make me like restless again. We each have our roles in this.
No, it's good. It's good because if you're on this journey with me and you've seen the entire thing but not super recently,
yes,
it's kind of fun to be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Did we establish that?
Is that a thing? Yeah. But I mean, we have this quick moment with Tara. She sabotages the spell, and then we just never address it again until we get to Family. And I think that's really like an interesting thing because they seed that here so that when you get to Family, you're like, oh. Right. I get it now. Now I know why Tara did that thing. But in the middle of this like truly, truly clunky ass terrible episode, it's really easy to forget that she sabotaged the spell because that is hardly like the biggest thing that's happening in this episode.
Yeah, there's so much other stuff going on.
You
There's
got
so
sweaty,
much
whiny
going on.
Riley and weird shit. But okay, so Buffy. Let's talk about
Yes.
Buffy for a little bit.
Yes, it is her show.
It is
That
her
seems
show.
fair.
I love Buffy. I love the yummy sushi pajamas thing. That's one of my favorite things, my favorite moments for her. It's just so incredibly cute. I love when she looks at Riley and says, I'm going to find that demon and I'm going to kill it. And then you can ask me how happy all this death makes me, you know? I'm glad that she slaps him for that because dude deserves to be slapped for that, you know? But then, like, okay, we do this thing with Buffy that I'm noticing. I started noticing it in my last watch, and now coming through it again, I'm seeing it more clearly, like when it happens. But at the end of this episode, you know, she's just like, Walsh just tried to murder her. She's not sure about her safety. You know, her boyfriend is going through like all of this shit, and that's scary. He grabbed her friend and threw her to the floor. You know, he's grabbed Buffy. He's accused her. He held a gun on somebody. Like, this is all stuff that for Buffy would be really upsetting, right? And at the end of the episode, after everything she's been through, the only thing she can think about is Riley and Riley's well-being. He has nothing to hold on to. Well, you know what? He can hold on to those fucking arms for a little bit. Buffy, let's talk about you. Like, so we do this thing with Buffy where we, I think, frequently erase her trauma. When Angel bit her, I mean, she made Angel bite her, but when Angel bit her, you know, and she was in the hospital, what was her concern? Is he okay? You know, like, there's never a concern for Buffy about Buffy and about what Buffy's been through. And she was assaulted by that guy in Go Fish, you know? Yeah, she's strong, and yeah, she can take care of herself, but it's still fucking assault. I don't care if you have a martial arts degree or Slayer strength. When somebody assaults you, it's fucking traumatizing. Just a little bit. Maybe when you're a teenager, he's an idiot and you can beat the snot out of him, but still, you know? It's still a scary experience, and like no concern about Buffy's response to that. How many times has Buffy been, you know, beaten and, you know, and she's died already once, you know? I mean, like but we constantly erase her trauma in this episode where like what happens to her doesn't matter. But here's Riley and he's in withdrawal and he's so sad because he doesn't understand the world, you know? So we're so sad for him. But like literally this woman just tried to kill Buffy, you know, like somebody that she didn't know very long, but she trusted, you know?
Yeah. But everyone tries to kill Buffy. Like, that's
this is true. This is kind of like a daily experience for her.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I mean, like everything that Riley did, the things that Riley said to her, like that any of this is upsetting to her is something we never consider. So like, no matter what Buffy's been through, we typically erase it in favor of looking at what's suffering, you know, like the men are going through, or her romantic interest is going through, or even, you know, like other characters are going through, like, I don't know, like, but, and the one time that we didn't erase Buffy's trauma, right after becoming, she runs away to Los Angeles. She lives as a waitress for a few years and she comes back. So the show doesn't erase her trauma. The show deals with her trauma in that circumstance. She comes back and everybody's pissed off about why she wasn't there for them.
Right.
About how she upset them, you know?
Yeah.
And,
never mind that she has to go to literal hell.
Exactly. You know, like, I mean, so I understand, like, there was a lot of stuff that they didn't know about what Buffy had been through, that they didn't know the whole story and everything. But it's just
that's traumatic
in
and of
show.
itself.
Right.
That's traumatic. Not having anyone that you can say, this is what happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I need to process it. And that's, I mean, Is it Willow who says in this episode, you know, Buffy's reflecting on Riley was supposed to be the normal one. You know, Riley was supposed to be this guy who was, you know, everything, who was representative of everything that she felt like she couldn't access, being the Slayer, you know, all of this normal life, this normal, you know, typical college girl existence. And that all falls to pieces. And Willow says something to the effect of, you know, your life just defies, you know, the average, or like basically tells her like you're extraordinary.
Normalcy. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Like, you know, You're extraordinary, deal with it, which is kind of the theme of the entire show. You're extraordinary, deal with it, in a way. But yeah, it doesn't. It's like we put her, any sadness or fear or uncertainty that she's feeling gets put on the back burner when there's a man in pain.
Right. And because she's extraordinary, and that's the thing, like, because she's extraordinary, it's like people expect her to be super strong in every way all the time and not need to have that, that processing of what has happened to her. Because yes, she's physically, she's the Slayer. She's got incredible physical abilities, but Slayer needs a therapist. Like, this shit is real. Not to mention the fact that, like, that your shelf life is greatly diminished. Your expiration date, is coming up pretty fast because eventually something's going to get you. She's already died once at 16 and then said, "Let's go dance." Like, she is supposed to be able to emotionally handle everything on herself, and she only gets upset really when she's worried about somebody else, when she's thinking about somebody else. And and some of that, I don't know, like, it's part of her character, it's part of how she's built, that she thinks of other people first. But some of it is also kind of like this expectation, I think, that a lot of times generally falls to women, that they are the caretakers, they are the nurturers, they are supposed to be there for other people. And if they take time out to deal with their own fallout, that somehow that is a weakness, that is not strength,
or that it's neglectful
or that selfish.
And that was the way the Scoobies spun it when Buffy, Buffy had to get some real space between herself and what she had experienced. And she came back and everybody's like, how dare you leave us?
Exactly.
And and that is a real pressure that is put on women, especially. I mean, it's put on lots of different kinds of people from lots of different, lots of different experiences. But I think that is something that is a standard to which we as a society hold women, that your pain doesn't matter. Think about, think about what everyone else is going through. Think about him. Think about his reputation. Think about, whatever. It's
always that. And so there's something in that I think is part of Buffy's character, but there's also something in that I think is part of the kind of the presumption that writers come into this with, this is how writers, you write the world the way that you see it. And, a woman who's going through all this stuff somehow is supposed to be about other people. And I don't know, like, I'd have to do some analysis of, like, male superheroes and the way that we deal with them. But I think it's different. I think there's something different in what we expect from women. I mean, clearly what we expect from, women or, female identifying people. And,
women and femmes and, queer people and non-binary people. It's like, yes, you're supposed to do everyone else's, caretaking for them.
And emotional labor, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's
Absolutely.
not an expectation generally of men. So I find that kind of interesting. I don't know. I think we're going to see a few instances of erasing Buffy's trauma. And this isn't even the worst one. It just kind of stood out to me that at the end of everything that she's been through, and realizing that the man that she's with, I mean, there's a point in this where she thinks that he might be in on it, that he might have been trying to kill her. And that's something that needs to be processed. I mean, she's been through that before. So is that not an Angelus trigger? I would think it would be. And yet nothing. We've erased that trauma. And having Angelus, having the man you love turn into a monster in front of your eyes, I can tell you, is pretty fucking triggering. That's going to sit with you for a while,
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something that I think we had an opportunity to kind of address here, and yet nothing. What we're worried about is Riley and his withdrawal symptoms, and where is he, and he has nothing to hold on to. Well, you know what? Let's talk about you for a minute, Buffy.
We needed a longer, more nuanced arc for both Buffy and Riley in this.
Yes.
We needed, and I mean, I love Mark Blucas. I think Mark Blucas does a great job. I do not think Mark Blucas has the acting chops that Sarah Michelle Gellar has.
Okay, and that said, few people do.
Yes,
few people could go toe to toe with Sarah Michelle Gellar. That's a high bar. Yeah.
Yes, but I just, if you wanted to do, like, I've talked before about the parallels between Buffy and Riley and, the Scoobies and the Initiative.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to do a story about, if you wanted to create this like male partner for Buffy who is more or less her equal in the same way that Faith was her equal, I could see doing a longer, more drawn out story where he has to grapple with all of the implications of everything that's going on around him and, realizing that there's this corruption and he's been used and all of these things. But you would have to... That's a much longer story than they want to do with Riley.
Right. And it requires... much more interesting than what they've been doing with Riley.
Yeah.
And if Riley had some questions, if he had been suspicious, if I don't know, like there's just something about it that just, and I really think it comes down to the big problem with Riley all the way through has been a complete lack of vulnerability. He's just there to be pretty and, quote unquote normal and then turn and then suddenly be something else, Yeah. And Buffy being perfectly okay with that. I think that's not realistic considering what she went through with Angelus. The idea that the man that she loves is trying to kill her or maybe trying to kill her. That's
or is at least
tough.
Connected to the entity
and
that's
she
trying
doesn't
to kill
know.
her.
She doesn't know at this point. So, so that's something that just sticks with me. We'll be definitely talking about Buffy and trauma erasure as we go. But speaking of traumatic, there's also Forrest. Right. And his trauma of loving. Forrest has more vulnerability because he so desperately is in love with Riley. Another thing we're not textually acknowledging, and I don't know if they intended it to be there, but it is so clear. But his whole idea that like Buffy kept asking questions. First of all, that's not your problem with her, Forrest. Let's just admit that. And that because she was asking questions, if Walsh tried to kill Buffy, maybe Buffy needed killing. Are ya
harsh?
Are ya serious? We're supposed to this guy is Riley's best friend. Like, what the fuck is that? So he's clearly in love with Riley, clearly jealous, and that's no excuse for being a dick. He's just a petulant little child in this thing, and it's just awful.
I feel it's funny. Like he's so whiny and he's so entitled and he's such a grump even before he starts going through withdrawal.
Yeah.
But I feel bad for Forrest. Like
Aww. I think such a sweetheart.
Not because he's especially lovable, but because I don't think he's having any fun.
Oh, he's not having any fun.
It's not fun to be Forrest.
I don't think so.
And I feel bad for him. But yeah, if she wanted to kill Buffy, maybe Buffy needed... Whoa! Like
what?
I realize that you're not getting your, daily dose of whatever, but yikes.
But still, but it's not inconsistent with Forrest last week when he was being dosed. Like, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. It's not great. It's not great. Okay, so one thing, though, that we haven't talked about at all, because it really doesn't matter in this episode, but it's still kind of fun, is Spike.
Gotta hand it to you, Goldilocks. You do have bleeding tragic taste in men. I got a cousin married to a regurgitating Frovelox demon that's got better instincts than you.
I'm gonna unpack that line. I gotta unpack that line. You know my beef with that concept, but I'm not sure. Have I unpacked it here? I don't think I have.
I don't think so. You've unpacked it with me privately, but I really want everyone else to hear it.
Now, I understand that this is coming from Spike. Spike is evil. This is a great evil line for Spike.
Yes.
And on and on and on. It is. I take I take no umbrage with Spike using this line. I love this line. I love Spike and everything he stands for on the show as a fictional being. Anyway.
Right.
The idea that when something goes wrong in a woman's relationships, that it's because she has terrible taste in men is some of the most misogynistic bullshit I think I have ever heard. I'm fucking serious. And Lani is laughing because I take her to task about this all the time.
Yes, you do. And you know what? You're right. You're right. I completely acknowledge. Yes, because I say that about myself all the time, that I have terrible taste in men.
And I'm like, that is victim blaming bullshit. But also...
Yes.
Also, okay, it's a question of taste, right? You guys know how I feel about taste shaming and how, like, that's not ever okay. And the culture creates taste. The culture tells us what is desirable and what is not. So if a woman is following the taste of the culture that has been dictated to her. And of course, I'm speaking in the binary again about heterosexual relationships. I know.
Right. Well, because this particular brand of misogyny comes straight from patriarchy, and patriarchy generally tends to ignore any relationships that are not heteronormative. So that's not your fault.
What? The heteronormativity and the patriarchy is not my fault? I was not aware.
They skip down the lane singing songs hand in hand. Yes, absolutely.
Skipping through the daisies singing tra-la-la.
Exactly.
So you lose as a woman in this false dichotomy of good taste in men versus bad taste in men. A woman with good taste in men is a woman who buys into the cis heteropatriarchal idea of what a quote unquote real man is. And we all know how pervasive and effective toxic masculinity is in our culture. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. And the idea that the relationship went sour or something, something got fucked up at some point.
It's my fault for having bad taste in men. It's your fault, right?
And did you see what you were wearing? I mean, really?
Exactly. No, it's true. And I have to say that while I do joke around a lot about how I have terrible taste in men, my first husband is one of the loveliest people on the planet. I'm just going to say that we're still really good friends. I absolutely love him to pieces. He is my kid's father and just a wonderful human being. So, my taste in men is not the problem. You've pointed this out to me privately. I really appreciate you talking about it on the podcast because I think that everybody needs to hear that shit.
Yeah.
Because it was so ingrained that I was like, no, it's my fault. If things don't work out, it's because I have bad taste in men. And it's not.
And that's that, again, speaking to this idea of what the expectations of women are, as personified in Buffy Summers. It's all of the responsibility falls to the woman. God, if something is difficult or something is less than, I mean, how pervasive is the idea that if, for example, your husband is unhappy, that it is your job to fix that as a wife.
Right.
That's everywhere. It's not his job.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It absolutely is his job to go out and, get his therapy and work on himself and his own issues. But culturally, it is women's work to do that kind of emotional caretaking. And it's when you see the ways that this weasels its way into every corner of our lives, man, we got it.
It's cultural and it's taught from the time that we're little. If he pulls your pigtails, it means he likes you. Doesn't matter. He's still pulling my fucking hair, right? If he likes, the reason why really isn't important. It's still bullshit behavior, but now it's because of me. It's because he likes me. And there's that too. There's if he behaves badly because he loves you, then that somehow makes it okay. You know, there's a lot of bullshit pulled into that. Absolutely. So I appreciate you sharing that with everybody because it was definitely a very helpful thing for me to hear. It is a really helpful thing when a good friend sits you down and says, "Hey, your head is full of bullshit. Let me clear some of that out for you."
And it was, you know, and
it's nice.
You're following, if your head is full of the bullshit that you were fed and taught that like this will keep you safe.
Right.
You know, that's it. Like, yes, of course, your head is full of this bullshit. Of course, all of our heads are full of bullshit about how to behave and how to be good and how to keep ourselves safe. And, but if it comes down from on high, from an authority that seeks to control and manipulate.
If the patriarchy's Dr. Who's is putting it in your goddamn food metaphorically throughout your entire life. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Like, I get it.
Oh, man.
I know it's bullshit. I'm not blaming myself for it because it's bullshit I was raised with, you know, and we all were, you know, but like being able to see that is very helpful. So thank you, Noelle. That was a very helpful insight that you have been giving me for quite some time now, and I've appreciated it. Thank you. All right. So back to Goodbye, Iowa. Frank and Adam. All right. Okay, like, fair enough, Adam is typically regarded as, like, the worst big bad of all of Buffy's big bads, but Jesus, like, this little exposition dump he takes there at the end, where he's just wandering there and just talking, and nobody's picking up, I don't know, a trank gun or trying to throw water on him so he electrocutes because he's 90% electrical parts and metal. Everybody's just sitting there listening to him, like, okay, and I mean, I know there are reasons for that, like, they've got these chips in them that prevent them from doing certain things or whatever, like, and we're going to address that later on in the season, but it's just bad. It's just bad writing. The Dr. Who's expositional dump in the middle of the hallway is also just bad writing.
I kind of love Dr. Creepy and Dr. Exposition in the hallway just being like, I hope no one follows me into the records room, you know, when of course,
which is down here and 2 doors on the right and will be unlocked. Yes, exactly.
They've been getting drugs in their food
bad.
And now they're going through withdrawal, and we're like, okay, yeah.
And please let me explain to you, who is also part of the program, shit that you already know. As you know, Mary. Yeah, it's so bad. But Frank and Adam is, you know, like, he comes out, he sees this kid, also killing the kid, super fucking dark. Did we need to do that? I mean, that was pretty fucking terrible. He's, you know, this half monster, half man, half toaster, you know. How is he faster than the Initiative? He got away because he's so fast and so quiet, clunking through the world in half a ton of metal.
With a literal
The guy
leg
easily
brace.
weighs 450 pounds. With a little
He has a
leg
brace on. Now, I mean...
Right. He's faster and lighter on his feet and smarter? Smarter? How is he smarter than the people who made it? Because he has a zip drive in his chest? If he was hooked up to Wi-Fi, if he was like, you know, good Janet or something, then maybe I could see how he has all of human knowledge. But he's just eating these discs one by one. Riley Finn, let's see what's up with you. And where is he keeping them? I guess in all the... That's where cargo pants are really, you know, valuable. Sure. So Maggie filled his pants with zip drives full of information that he can just absorb in a minute. And he's just not a great big bad. Like, he's not the one who created the conflict. He literally was born yesterday. Like, he doesn't have a clear goal. Didn't exist until this episode, at the end of last episode. It's just such a weird... Maggie Walsh was a good antagonist, you know? She was interesting and as a big bad for the season running this whole thing. Why did we kill Maggie Walsh? I mean, yeah, I hated her, but I respected her. But now we've got this weird green demon dude, you know, the Franken demon, and he's just clomping all over town. A metal detector will help you find him just fine. And yeah, I know they're like, you know, what we find out later is that they've got like, you know, some kind of mind control bullshit going on, preventing them from, I guess, capturing him or whatever they were programmed to do. But his whole like existential angst with the kid, I know what I am. I do not know who I am. And like,
which interesting philosophical question, right? Because
yeah, well, I'm all here for identity stories.
Yeah, like who is for identity and what is like the role or the attribute of a person. But I don't care. Like I really don't.
He's just not that scary. He doesn't seem that smart.
No.
You know?
No, he really doesn't. He doesn't. I feel like they're going for a kind of Frankenstein's monster meets Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator. And it doesn't work for me at all.
No.
At all. I don't.
But, you know, the thing is, like, part of this dude, at least, was once human. You know, like the right upper quadrant of his face was once
some
human.
Part of his
right?
face was a human being at some point.
Part of his face was once human, right? So, I mean, the thing is, like, having the human part of him at war with the demon part of him could have been kind of an interesting thing. If we, again, vulnerability, even in your big bad, even in your antagonist, we see vulnerability with Glory, you know, in season 5, because she desperately wants to get back to a place where she knows she belongs. She has these horrible, debilitating headaches.
Best big bad.
You know, she's bad.
Best big bad.
Right.
I will go on record. I love Glory.
I love Glory too. A lot of people don't, and I get it, but I love Glory. But the thing is with Adam is that here you have this being. Like the thing with actual Frankenstein's monster, right, is that he wants to know who he is and what he is, and he is actually like yearning for a sense of identity. And we get this from Frank and Adam textually, but we don't get a sense of him having any sense of like who was the guy who became Frank and Adam. Like the part of that is still in him, right? I mean, you would presume. Think. So he's made, his brain is probably still that, and if he had any memories, if he was suddenly like out of control, like, you know, Lani and of Mice and Men, right? That just wanted to love things, but ended up crushing them. Like, what if he saw this little boy and he was like, I had a little boy like you, right? And this kid is crushed as opposed to mutilated. Like hugged too hard, like that what he's searching for is his identity, and he is creating disaster all around him at that time. Like that could be an interesting antagonist. That could be an interesting big bad. Something that just wakes up and is like, I'd like to skewer you, you know, is not that interesting. It's not engaging. And having sympathy for our antagonist in a certain way, like I think, you know, we had that for Spike in season 2. Faith in season 3, you know, and the mayor in season 3, they had vulnerability, they had love for each other, you know. Those things make a great antagonist, a great big bad, and it's something that we're just like the heart of everything. The heart of Riley is missing, the heart of Frank and Adam is missing. All of this stuff is just missing. So we're telling like the surface level functional narrative without having the reason why we want that surface level functional narrative, so that it can carry this deeper meaning, this deeper resonance, this emotional space that we can explore. And in an entire season that is dancing with all of these wonderful identity stories. We got the Spike one. I went through that whole thing when we did Doomed, you know. We've got Giles, you know, gradually morphing into Sweater Giles until he is actually wearing sweater dresses. Like it's so fun to see all of that, and we have all these wonderful spaces for these identity questions, and it's exactly the kind of thing that I would love to see them doing with Adam. But you've got to give him something. There's got to be something that he's in search of, like who he was before. Trying to get back, imagine waking up as a monster and trying to get back to who you were before and finding that will never happen, and then going into a wild hot rage because you didn't ask for this shit. You know, all of that could be wonderfully done here. And if Maggie is there as the big bad that created him, the mother that is controlling him, you know, then you've got something really interesting and crunchy. But she turns bad and dies within like 15 seconds. And we don't get a chance to process that. We don't get a chance for Riley to face her and question her. She's the one that he actually cares about and is emotionally connected to. That could have been really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so all of these choices, I feel like there's something that really could have been here. You know, there's something really wonderful that could have been, and it just kind of fails.
Yeah, he's just not that interesting.
He's not. He's really not. But, you know, another missed opportunity, though, here, as long as we're talking about missed opportunities, is Anya, right?
Oh, my God.
I love Anya. Like, I love Anya. And part of it is because I think the reason why the writers love her and why they treat her as a comedy mule, because she can carry that shit. Like, Emma Caulfield has the comic timing of, like, I've never seen anything like this before. Like, she is amazing. And, you know, but we reduce her. Here she is this, you know, vengeance demon who has been human. You know, we know now at this point in the run, we don't know that she was ever human. We just know she was a vengeance demon, right? And we guess I can presume that she was taken from human because D'Hoffryn, we saw D'Hoffryn offer Willow and Something Blue the opportunity to become what Anya was. So we can presume that she was human at some point. Then she was a demon for like 1,000 years, you know, and tormented bad men that whole time, right? And then is made human again. That is such rich ground. And to have her fall in love after all of that, after everything she's seen, and she falls in love in this very innocent, flat, I'm just a girl in love kind of thing, right? And yet, like, when we first had her, when we had her in Doppelgangland, when we had her in I'm 1,120 years old, just give me a beer. Like, that is the Anya that we should have gotten all the way through. But then she falls in love with Xander, and suddenly she's like, I'm just a girl. I don't know. You know, her whole, like, you can't have Xander thing is cute and funny because Emma Caulfield can deliver anything. She could deliver babies. This woman is amazing. Like, what she can do is incredible. And I don't blame them. I honestly don't blame them that much for making her a comedy mule because Jesus, this woman can do anything. But she can do anything. She can also do dramatic stuff, as we see. We've seen her before she and Xander got together and how great and powerful and strong and knowledgeable she was. And then we kind of reduce her down because she's with a boy or whatever. And she becomes all about, you can't have Xander, you know? And it just feels like how wonderful would it have been for her to find herself falling in love with Xander after everything she's seen and after everything she's been through, and realize that when she looked at all these women and were like, yeah, this guy's an asshole, and how the hell did you get into that in the first place? And then here she is falling in love. What a wonderful, crunchy space for an internal conflict for her, that instead of him being resistant about her, you reverse that where he's chasing her, which he should, because
she's
Anya,
adorable. Come
and
on.
she's resistant to that because of everything she's seen and everything she's been through, and then going down this road with him and having him, you know, leave her at the altar, right? Because as soon as she does that, as soon as they break up in season 6 in Hell's Bells, boom, we've got Anya back. We've got like rich, layered, smart, knowledgeable Anya back, you know? So I don't know, like, as I'm watching this, I'm like, it's funny. Emma Caulfield delivers the fuck out of it. She's amazing and she's hilarious, but God, what a missed opportunity.
Yep. It's always such a bummer when the story that the writers want to tell is not necessarily the story that you want to hear. Like,
well, it's such an opportunity and it's just missed. And like, I get it. She is funny. So you can give her anything and she will make it work. Like, it's fantastic. But you know, Xander talking down to her, sell bars, make money, buy Anya nice things, you know, like that kind of shit that she would put up with any of that shit from Xander is, I don't know. It doesn't work for me because there's so much opportunity in a millennium as a vengeance demon getting, revenge on men for being fucking terrible. And then when this man is terrible to her, she doesn't have a reaction. It's like she learned nothing from all that time. And I would think that somebody who had seen what she had seen the things that men had done, would be like, yeah, I'm not falling in love with a man. Fuck that noise. Like there could be some real fun stuff happening here in this space with them. And Xander this season is so much better overall. Right. The weird trying to kiss Buffy in the hallway at the initiative is weird and whatever. And given the history there, it's something I'd like, we're not done with this yet. Can we be done with this? And it doesn't seem in this moment like he is actually trying, to get something that he wants from Buffy, which is what it always was before when it was weird between them. It's just like a weird moment. But I don't know, like there's so much, I think, with Xander and with Anya that could have been so much better and yet just falls into this very, very flat, jokey space.
Yeah, it's really, it's unfortunate. Although I do love the little coda to that bit at the initiative. Buffy says, "This is the initiative, Xander. Military guys and scientists do not make out with each other." And Xander says, "Well, maybe that's what's wrong with the world. Ever think about that?" And I'm like, yes, I do think about that all the time.
Right.
Makeouts for everyone. I mean, consensually, of course. But
oh God.
I mean, that's adorable. And Xander, I feel like, is getting incrementally better.
Yeah, I think he is.
But
I think he is. I like him so much more. Like from season 4 on, I like him so much more. And except for the way he treats Anya, I pretty much love him. There are a couple of exceptions, a couple of moments that are not great for Xander. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's another disappointment. It's like we had putting Xander through this whole identity crisis and having that make him into a better man. I really like that. But we're not really seeing him that much in an identity crisis. We don't really get his identity crisis until, the replacement in season 5, when he finally starts to look at his life and decide that it's not good enough,
But I mean, and again, like Nick Brendan is excellent. So when he gets these lines like, I totally get it now. Can I have sex with Riley too? Mm-hmm. Like,
exactly.
I'm like, I don't love this whole like the initiative is sex thing, but that line is so funny coming from Xander, and he delivers it so beautifully.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's so many missed opportunities in this episode. Yeah, especially.
I know. In this episode especially, but like overall with these characters, just so much could have been done.
Oh, well.
So disappointing. All right. So, Noelle, what are you wearing?
So, everything about the Scoobies camping out in the basement is delightful. Delightful. But, I mean, yummy sushi pajamas on Buffy.
I know.
It's just, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Such a great little coda to that scene. Although, I have to say, I don't think yummy sushi pajamas make her plan any less commanding or amazing. Like that is part of what makes Buffy so wonderful. She can patrol in a halter top. She can lead she can lead the troops in her sushi pajamas. It's cool. Yes. This is what we do. You go hunt some vampire, the overlords in your prom dress, and then go to the dance. Like this is what Buffy does, and I just love it. But everything that everyone is wearing in that scene is just delightful. So Buffy, I mean, Buffy wins it with her sushi pajamas, which I really want now.
Yes.
Anya is wearing Xander's t-shirt, which is such a sweet little detail. I love stuff like that. I love it when props or costume pieces come back and they're not acknowledged. It's just, Oh, we've seen
Right,
that
it's
shirt
just
before
there.
on Xander.
Yeah.
Now Anya's wearing it, and that's adorable. And then Xander's t-shirt that says "I heart
Yes.
dirt" over and over again.
I heart dirt. What is that? Like, I noticed that and I was like, I mean, it's cute. Like, it's cute. It's funny. It's random. Like, I guess maybe that's the appeal of it, is how incredibly random it is. But like, I thought maybe that was like a band or something that I didn't know, or there was some kind of cultural reference, some cultural meme going on there.
That's entirely possible.
But it's cute.
I mean, I remember in the early aughts, those t-shirts with a repeated line
phrase
right.
Mm-hmm.
on it being a thing for like a minute, but
yeah,
I couldn't tell you what. I don't know. It's delightful. I love it so much.
Right.
I love it so
cute.
much.
It is so cute. All right, do we have a girl power moment?
I don't know.
Do you want me to skip over that?
Do we have a girl power moment of the week?
Oh, not with a girl pal big.
I mean, I want to say like it's Buffy being all like concerned for everybody else, but also, come on, Buffy. like,
right.
Come on. Like, really?
Yeah. Well, I like the moment where Buffy looks at Riley and says, yeah, I'm going to go kill this thing, and then you can ask me how happy all this death makes me. Like, I like when she pushes back on his bullshit, you know? So I do like that. I mean, generally all things Buffy are girl power moments.
Pretty girl powery. I mean,
she's pretty girl powery. Yeah. So I think there's that. All right. What's your favorite part?
My favorite part is the girls watching cartoons in the basement. I love the Anya sandwich on Willow and Buffy bread.
Right?
I love it so much. It just speaks volumes.
It is really sweet.
It's so cute.
It is incredibly sweet.
So cute. What about you? What's your favorite part?
We get very little Spike in this episode, but that two thumb. If you're gonna kill her, he gives her the two thumbs up, and that has of course become eminently gifable throughout the world of social media and is used in a million different contexts all the time. It is very cute, and so it was fun to see it because I'm like, oh, that's where that gif comes from.
And his face.
So it's something that
his face.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
so cute.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Goodbye Iowa isn't great, but it is the gift that keeps on gifting, I guess, is what you call it. Oh, that's bad. Oh, it hurt to say that. Ow. Okay, anyway. It's like something my dad would have said.
Hey, dad jokes for everyone.
Dad jokes for everyone.
If you enjoyed this conversation and would like to join in, come find us on Twitter. Lani is at LaniDianeRich, and I am at Noelle Aloud, and the hashtag is Still Pretty.
This episode of Still Pretty was brought to you by the chipperish media producers who support us on Patreon at the power producer level. These people are the reason why Still Pretty is coming to you free and ad-free right now. So thank you to our December producers, Shelley, Abigail, Kristen, Noelle, Jonathan, Alyssa, Alice, Erica, Sarah, Kevin, and Heather. And this week's special message for our power producers. I hope you don't think that I just come over here for the sex and everything. I mean, I really like just talking and hanging out with you and stuff. Spells. Did I say sex? How random is that?
To find out how you too can support Chipperish Media, visit patreon.com/chipperish. Other ways to show your support: write a great review on Apple Podcasts, tell your friends about the show, or take an exposition dump in the hallway. Everybody's doing it these days.
We will be back next time with This Year's Girl and Who Are You, the 15th and 16th episodes of Season 4, and we get us a little faith, and I am so excited. Until then, I don't generally like to kill humans, but I've learned that it pays to be flexible in life.